I don't know how to intro these. Is my mic working? I didn't do a mic test before stream, so hopefully this thing is on. Welcome everyone to another live stream here on the channel. Hopefully everyone is having a great day so far. I think that's how I normally start it. Let's see who we have in chat. We have King Bob, we have Sam, Pete, as well as Void, Caleb, and Matt in here, as well as everyone else who is watching and may not be chatting. Dang, mic doesn't work. That sucks. Well, I guess we got to start again. I guess I'm gonna have to end it and start again. But yeah, we're gonna be talking about the tropics here in this stream. We've got actually a tropical storm and a hurricane out in the eastern Pacific, and then we have our now high chance for a tropical storm or tropical depression out there in the main development region. So let's see if this stuff works. I should have went through, yeah, it looks good to me. Should have went through a little bit more thoroughly this time to make sure my computer didn't die over the last 5 days. It's been a while. It has been a while since we've done a stream, and really the only thing that's happened is these two systems out here in the eastern Pacific. Outside of that, it's really nothing else has happened in the weather world. We're still watching that main development region storm, and we did just get a slight risk for severe weather that was recently upgraded. It was a marginal, recently upgraded to a slight risk, and that is for tomorrow's severe event across Kansas, which actually doesn't look too bad. And there's some upcoming events that we're going to talk about for severe weather, not only out there in Kansas, but also for Tennessee, Virginia, North Carolina, even up in New York for the potential of severe weather. So not a lot has happened, but a lot is going to happen over the next few days here. So we'll just start with our systems out here in the eastern Pacific, since that's what I am already on. Just double check a few things. Yeah, we are good. Just triple checking that we're live. It's been a minute. So yeah, this recently had its eye poke out here. This is you see the name, I can't pronounce it. That had an eye earlier this evening, very late this afternoon, about 4:40 p.m. Eastern time. I consider that extremely late afternoon. And we had this gigantic convecutive burst of hot towers on the southwest side of its eye. And that actually closed the eye. The eye is still there, but this burst of convecutive hot towers actually is so intense that the overshooting cloud tops overshot the eye. And now it looks like the eye is completely closed. It's still there towards the lower levels and the mid levels. Just those overshooting cloud tops are blocking it from actually being visible to our satellite imagery. Hello, Sydney. Glad to see you in here as well. So this is currently a high-end Category 2, or rather a low-end Category 2 hurricane. 100-mile-per-hour wind speeds, 980 millibar there. That's as of the 5 p.m. Eastern update. It will be a high-end Category 2 very late tonight, mainly into tomorrow morning. And then it will get to a major hurricane status sometime tomorrow afternoon or evening. I don't think this has a chance for Category 4, and I think its maximum, the max this thing gets is to 115, 120 mile per hour Cat 3. I really don't see it getting any stronger than that, but we do have to watch towards Hawaii. That's going to be something we really want to keep an eye on. If you guys have been tuning into Lucky's live streams, I think he went live twice whilst I wasn't live over the course of these 4 to 5 days. And this thing's going to make a very close call to Hawaii. It's either going to go barely north or possibly even right into Hawaii. So we want to keep an eye on this very closely. Now, the good news is it will weaken as it goes towards Hawaii. You can see it's Cat 2 now. It's going to be Cat 3 tomorrow, and then it will be Cat 2 the day following, Cat 1 the day following, and then it should weaken to a tropical storm, maybe even a tropical depression before it gets close to or ends up impacting Hawaii. This storm out here in the far eastern Pacific off the coastline of west central Mexico currently is a tropical storm. It will be a hurricane probably sometime very late tomorrow into Thursday morning. And then sometime on Friday night into Saturday, this thing is either going to turn into Baja California or it is going to die out in this area. There's uncertainty on that. We'll look at the ensembles here in just a bit for the Eastern Pacific, if I remember. Tropical storm watches were recently issued for Baja California. We'll go over that as well. But that not really too organized right now. You could see, though, it has created a big plume of convection around its entire environment and its low pressure here. And what that's going to do is that's going to allow for all this dry air that we're having issues with. All this dry air is going to stay well away from the system. So the main thing that's just limiting this is the fact that it's not going to be too favorable. Our sea surface temperatures, I don't think, are extremely over the top. They should be about 29 Celsius. So still favorable for a hurricane. I haven't looked. Let's see what they are. That was just a random guess. We're going to go see how close I was. Let's see here. I need to get rid of the satellite imagery so I can see where this is. Yeah, it's about 29, 30 degrees Celsius. So it is pretty favorable. But a little bit of dry air and some very weak wind shear should impede this thing from doing anything too crazy. The most absurd models I've seen show Category 2 as a absolute max. Like, that is as high as this environment is capable of producing for a hurricane. So, you can see almost up to Cat 2. I believe 100 mile per hour winds is Cat 2. This is at 85. I've actually forgotten. Let's go check. Wind speeds of a Category 2 hurricane. So, yeah, 100 mile per hour winds. Yeah, okay, 100. 95 mile per hour winds is the maximum Category 1 hurricane. So, obviously, they go by 5 miles per hour except for 170. So that would be 100 mile per hour is a very low end Category 2. And that's what this named storm is right now. So very low end Cat 2 there. And this should be able to get to maybe a high end Cat 1 at best. That's what I'm thinking. A high end Category 1 at best if it doesn't die out. If it does start to die out towards this area right in here, it may not even make it past a mid-tier Category 1 hurricane. Right now, the GFS has a minimum central millibar being a 981 Thursday morning. So we'll have to keep an eye on this to see if it does manage to intensify any stronger than that. But right now, it looks like most of our models are getting this to the mid-tier Category 1 status, maybe getting close to upper-tier Cat 1. So, yeah, let's go back over here to the eastern Atlantic Ocean here. And you could see this big AOI. The last time we talked about this, it was a tiny little 20% chance out here near Cape Verde. And since then, the angle has completely changed. So most of our models at that point were actually taking it up and around the Azores high pressure out here in the far eastern Atlantic that was somewhere up in this area. But ever since then, that high pressure has kind of trended more to the southwest. So instead of pulling it out to sea, it's actually going to end up pulling it actually west. And I did just see that. Thank you, Sam. I didn't notice we had a marginal today. Let me change that to a level 1. We've had so many level 0s out of 5s for severe weather that I just kept it on that. Let's see. There you go. Yeah, we are under a marginal today. Nothing too crazy, though. Nothing crazy. So that high pressure is going to be a little bit more south, which will allow it to pull it a bit more to the west. Now, that high pressure should eventually grab it, but this is the problem. This is where our uncertainties kick in and where a lot of model discrepancies are just showing on the Euro ensembles and the GFS ensembles. Once it gets to here, you could see how far south this AOI is, right? Like this AOI is really, really far south, but also in the northern quadrant, really far north. And it depends on where it's going to go in the day 5 to 7 time frame. If it's a bit more north, this thing is definitely going to end up being just an out to sea storm and we won't have any issues. But if it goes far south, there are some ensembles that actually take this into a hurricane, maybe even a major hurricane, very close to the Lesser Antilles and very close to Puerto Rico and even the Dominican Republic. And some have a Category 1, Category 2 hurricane going in the Caribbean and then going up through Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. And that is the worst case scenario. If this thing is very far south, that's what it could possibly do. Now, in the middle is a bit of a better scenario, but still not the best scenario. We could still end up with a hurricane in this scenario, very, very close to the Lesser Antilles and not too close, but still close enough to keep an eye on Puerto Rico. And then our other least likely case scenario is very far north to where it goes out to sea. So we have one scenario where this thing goes out to sea, another one where it goes kind of very close to the Lesser Antilles, stays a bit north of Puerto Rico, but still would be worth watching. Another scenario where it skims the Lesser Antilles and Puerto Rico, and then another scenario where it goes into the Caribbean and then back up towards the Dominican Republic. So really four scenarios here. That far northern one and the far southern one are the least likely case scenario. This one right here is the most likely case scenario, where it stays north enough of the Lesser Antilles to where it doesn't make landfall or any direct impacts, but it's still going to end up being something we want to keep an eye on. So the NHC has us at a 3070 at the moment. What that means is gradual intensification is expected in the next 2 days, but once we get to the 72-hour time frame, that's when we're expecting this to really push tropical depression status and then eventually become a tropical storm as we get into early next week. That's why they have that 7-day at 70%. Now, there are still some models, and we'll dive into that right now. We'll dive on into our model data. So this is going to be on tropicaltidbits.com, and I'm going to have to switch y'all over to a different scene. So this is probably one of the more interesting things. And you know what? It just backed off of it. It just backed off of it. So the older Euro models here, and by older, I mean literally the last two, never had this becoming a hurricane until almost Bermuda, if barely had it becoming a hurricane. You can see the 0Z from this morning / last night, and then even the 12Z didn't have this becoming a hurricane until it was well out to sea. But if we look at the new 12Z, okay, yeah, that's completely different. I mean, the difference between the 12Z today and the 12Z from yesterday is like light and it's just crazy. That is crazy. Welcome, Rainbow Obsidian. Glad to see you back in here. So that is just crazy. Man, that is hold on. Pretty sure we can measure that distance. That's like a 400-mile difference there. Could we go, give me just a second. We're going to zoom in a little bit more so we can kind of compare this. And I'm going to zoom this in some too. There we go. Like I said, trying to get used to this. Haven't done this in a long time. Haven't done it in 5 days. Yeah, I mean, that literally shifts like a good 400 to 450 miles there. That is crazy. And you could see with the newest 12Z European model run, That takes a tropical storm way too close, actually a hurricane at this point, a hurricane way too close for comfort to the Lesser Antilles and Puerto Rico. Now, thankfully, that high pressure does get a hold of it relatively quick, but you can see, that's going to be scary. That's going to be very scary because you've got a tropical storm forming here, and you can see it takes that very quite sharp north-northwest turn right at that point. I mean, its motion is due west until that high pressure gets a hold of it and pushes it a bit more northwest. So, depending on when that turn happens, this could very easily end up impacting the Lesser Antilles and eventually Puerto Rico, and then eventually it does get it out to sea. But it does have a likely major hurricane at that point. 946 millibar, most of the time that is going to be a major hurricane unless it's like subtropical. So that has a major hurricane going right over Bermuda at that point. Now, Bermuda, you want to keep an eye on it, but I'll just say the chance of Bermuda being hit directly by this is pretty slim. If we go to the CMC model run, so the CMC is still holding it, where this takes that very far northern path, and for some reason the storm just never intensifies. It just never gets its act together. It does become a tropical depression and maybe a borderline tropical storm as we go into early and mid next week, but it never has it being a hurricane, and it definitely doesn't intensify it quickly whatsoever. The European AI model run was also one of the models that has not showed this develop, and it still sticks with that. It has no development, tropical depression at best there, and then it just kind of causes some rain in the Lesser Antilles. So we'll see. The Euro and the Canadian have been struggling with this quite a bit. And the Icon model run, let's see what that has. Okay, that does develop it right into a tropical storm Sunday. And does it take it any further? Ooh. That is south, man. That is more south than south. That is a southwest trajectory right there. That is a southwest trajectory on the Icon model run. I don't think any other models show that. I don't even think our Ensemble show it that well. Yeah, and that's because your high pressure is so much further to the southwest on that run. You can see the GFS, new GFS, by the way. Wow, okay. Straight up major hurricane by the time this thing goes east, still east of the Lesser Antilles there. 973. Yeah, it could be high in Cat 2, low in Cat 3 at that point. But you can see the difference between the Icon. The Icon model has your main high pressure. So it has your main high pressure up here, but it also has a stronger gradient, I believe is the word I'm looking for, over in this area, which is going to pull it further to the northwest once it gets to that area. But you can see the Icon is further west. And then if we go to the GFS, the newest GFS actually isn't much different than the Icon there. So I'm a little surprised the GFS actually takes us to the northwest and the Icon takes it to the southwest, because that's still the same steering pattern. If we go to the 12Z, you can see that was in a bit different location. It did actually trend south. You can see it. So because this high pressure moved a little bit further away, it trended a little bit more south here because that high pressure grabs it later. So the new 18Z indeed is a bit closer to the Lesser Antilles, and definitely pretty quick intensification. Once this thing gets out of this cluster of just convection out here, it goes to the north and then starts heading northwest. That's when it intensifies, and that will be probably Sunday, if not into early next week. Actually, I mean, GFS has a tropical storm Friday. And then a hurricane Saturday night into Sunday morning, and then maybe Cat 2, Cat 3 Monday into Tuesday. Hello, Void. Glad to see you in here. I'm doing pretty good. Got to get back in the swing of live streams again. It's been a while. So now I'm a little bit curious on why the Icon has it so far to the southwest. Because the GFS now has that similar steering pattern, which means there's no reason for the Icon to be that far to the southwest. It's the timing. That's what it is. So Sunday, 21Z Sunday. We're going to see this. 21Z Sunday right there on the icon. GFS 18Z, 21Z Sunday. Oh, I can't do that. This is 00Z Monday. A lot more west. I see like a little... I see something that might be able to steer a bit more southwest. See how this is like swinging in like this? Whatever that is, I don't know if it's another low or something. And that actually keeps it further to the south on the GFS. And what does the icon have that perhaps or something? I'm trying to just figure out why these models have trended more southwest. I mean, you can see with your kind of contours in here that there is a little bit more of a southwesterly component to the winds out here. And once the icon model run, once this tropical storm hits those winds, you can see it's moving normal, right? Northwest, northwest, northwest. And then when it gets to this area, it catches wind of whatever this is, and that pulls it more to the southwest. And then eventually it does regain some intensity, and then the high pressure grabs it even better. I don't know why the icon has the second wave here. I don't think we're dealing with that yet. The icon very, very aggressive with that. The good news is if that does form, that's definitely going to be going out to sea because of how far north it is. If I show you that again. So if this does form, that's going to be going like this. It's going to be following that high pressure. The problem with this little guy here is it's away from that high pressure. So your strongest west-northwesterly steering pattern is in here. Right up in here. And that's where this guy's going to go. It's going to go right into that stronger steering pattern, which will pull it out to sea. But your strongest steering pattern stops right about that 1018, 1016 millibar. That's where it's more of a westerly, little bit northwesterly turn. Up here, it's a due northwesterly turn. Like, literally anything that goes up there is going to be going north, 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 and then due northwest like that. But this has decided to trend further south over the last 5 days. I mean, you can see how far south it is at this point. If it just doesn't do that, like, northern tug, it's just going to go due west. It's just going to go due west, just like that, if it doesn't do that northern tug that all these models say. The reason why they say it is because of this bad boy right here. This high pressure grabs a hold of it instantly, and look how sharp north to the north-northwest that goes. And then our high pressure turns to the northwest. I know this is all very confusing. That's because I haven't looked at these models in a long time. So what's happening is our high pressure about now is up here, right? And our high is going to go like this. And when it gets to this point, it grabs a hold of our system and it pulls it up. And that's why we see that north-northwest tug on these model runs. But then it moves up here. So it influences our low pressure less. So instead of it just going like this and right out to sea, our high pressure decides, I'm going to just do a quick Yui, and I'm going to be over here, I don't know, maybe what, Saturday? Let's see. Yep, Saturday. Wow, Saturday. And so because of that, the high pressure influences the low pressure less, and that allows for it to move more west as opposed to north. So instead of it just continuing that northern jog and then eventually being carried out to sea, that high pressure moves so it goes more like this. And it follows the weaker gradient of that high pressure. And for some reason, again, the icon model one just says, screw physics. I'm just going to ignore the high pressure and do this. I'm just going to ignore the high pressure. That's what I was trying to figure out about 5 minutes ago. I still can't find out why it goes that far south. And I mean, even the new GFS is, yeah, that's relatively on track. You could see, again, that northern tug, right? It's down here, gets tugged to the north. That high pressure moves northwest. And because that high pressure gets further away from the low pressure, it has less influence. And so your low pressure begins to move west. And then your high pressure does maintain in this area. So that's really good. You can see once it gets just kind of like north of Barbados here, it starts to turn a bit more sharp because it gets into that high pressure steering. So that's really good. If we had this high pressure a bit more to the north, this would definitely be moving more west. If it was more south, then the high pressure would also be helping to move it more north. So really, this system's in the perfect spot to where it could be a close call to the Lesser Antilles. Right in there. That's really your main area to watch. Let's see if the Euro has it within those two lines as well. Yep. Although the Euro is definitely really far south on that. And you know why? Huh. Interesting. The reason why is because your high pressure is weaker. That's why. So what I'm looking at here, I'm not looking at this. You may be thinking, he's obviously looking at the high pressure icon. No, I'm looking at this, that 1020 contour. Watch where that is. On the Euro model, 1020 is a weaker high. So 1020 right there on the Euro. And on the GFS, 1020 is down here. So the Euro really should steer it more south. So obviously the higher the pressure, the stronger the high pressure, right? That's pretty obvious there. So the lower the low pressure, the less of a steering current it's going to have in terms of when we're dealing with like a 1020 millibar, that's still going to steer it to the west. That's still considered a high pressure. But the difference between your 1020 millibar being here and up here, that's a big difference. That's a really big difference because a 4 millibar increase is definitely going to be affecting the atmosphere and how this thing turns. And the CMC has the 1020 down here. So there's a lot of uncertainty on. So CMC high pressure there, 1020 contour there. The GFS has high pressure over, actually, maybe even a bit more off your screen, generally somewhere up here. And the 1020 is here. And the Euro has the high pressure here. And the 1020 closer to in line with the CMC. So the GFS is a bit of an outlier in this case. And that's why you can see, look at the difference. The GFS is so much more north because that 1020 contour is so much more to the south, right? Okay, yeah. Your 1020 contour is more south, so it's stronger. It's stronger because it's more south. So that's a huge difference. That is a huge difference between the Euro and the GFS. And also, holy moly, the strength difference is insane too. So because that 1020 contour is a little bit more to the southwest, that is the incorrect thing. Your tropical storm's like 250 miles more south. So that is the difference. That is the difference. The difference between your 1020 contour being here and here. That's the difference of this hurricane or tropical storm hitting the Lesser Antilles or being a fish storm. It's going to be that close, and really we aren't going to be able to tell until we get closer. All right, and then after this, most of our models just take it out to sea, but I do want to move on here because we've spent friggin' 20 minutes on 3 different model runs. So let's go to our ensembles here. We still got to get to severe weather. I gotta hurry up here. Could be running out of time. Give me just a second to load all these ensembles. I don't want to give you guys a flashbang here. So I'm gonna just keep doing this. There we go. Perfect. Watch it unload it all. Okay, good. It kept it. All right, so if we go ahead and pull this forward here. So that's our low pressure. Obviously, that's the area to watch. And you can see very, very tight, very tight spread here. Not much uncertainty in the 4-day time frame. But once we get to that 5 to 6 day time frame, everywhere. It's all going to come down to that 520 millibar contour. Or you could even use the 518, you can use the 522. Just the point being is the high pressure is more south on some models than others. And the ones that have that high pressure further south take it out to sea way quicker. And the ones that have that high pressure more to the north and a weaker high pressure keep this system really far south. And if we just keep pulling this out here, you can see this is the new Euro ensembles. I haven't seen this. There's a very clear very clear split in our ensembles. A very clear split in our ensembles. Some take this, actually, that's a pretty big bunch that have a hurricane making landfall in the Lesser Antilles. That is actually really, really bad right there. That's a lot of bunch. That's not like 2, 3 ensembles, all right? That's like 10. That's probably a third of our ensembles right there having this thing making landfall in the Lesser Antilles and Puerto Rico. So that high pressure is going to be the difference between a landfall and an out to sea storm. And that's as far out as our ensembles go. This is 240 hours out. But again, very clear difference. Very, very clear difference between the ones that have the high pressure more south and stronger and the ones that have the high pressure more north and weaker. Very clear difference on the Euro ensembles. Now, the GFS, those could be everywhere. The GFS ensembles, those could be absolutely everywhere. I don't think it's an invest at the moment. I could be wrong, but I don't believe it is. Ooh, you know what? Actually, pretty clear. Not as clear, but still decently clear between the ensembles that have this more south and the ones that have it more north because of the high pressure. But definitely the GFS has a bias here. I don't think the GFS is handling this well at all. I say it has a bias because you can look at any other ensemble here. This is the Google ensembles here. Oh, I would have Mersky. Am I looking at a different system? Why the heck is it so far south? What in the world? Okay, yeah, very far south on a lot of those ensembles for some reason. I don't know why some of those are so far south. And then look at that, the second system that the icon, I believe, shows. The Google ensemble is also picking up on that. I feel like this is wrong. September 2nd, September 2nd. Why do I feel like this is so wrong? So the Google models barely develop the first system and keep it just insanely far south. Like that is okay, this is weird. That's our tropical storm right there. Mixed in with both of these ensembles. And some of them, most of them just... Is that my phone going off? AI on my phone going off over there. Really confusing here. Because we are we're like 2 weeks in the future here. This is September 15th. We are 2 weeks into the future on this. And most of these ensembles just now have it getting to the Lesser Antilles, which means it's a completely different wave. Because if we go back to like any other ensemble, yeah, it is well gone on these ensembles. And on the GFS, it's up in Bermuda, if not in Atlantic, well into the Northern Atlantic subtropical at that point. And same with the European ensembles. Those go 240 hours out, and it's already passing the Lesser Antilles. So the Google ensembles, or whatever they're called, not something I'm going to be using, at least for that particular run. But most of these keep it pretty far to the north, and then the GFS is just like, I'm going to take it completely out to sea. Like, really, really far north. Hold on, I gotta re-update it. So, I think these are probably more realistic. I think we're going to have to watch this for a close call to the Lesser Antilles. Hopefully not, but I do think these southern ones are more realistic than these far northern ones. I highly doubt it's going to be going up here. I don't see a way how that happens unless our high pressure completely changes. I think it is going to take that northern jog. That's a given because of our high pressure. And then it will be a more gradual turn. And I don't know about over here. We will, thankfully, if you're worried about U.S. impacts to the States, we're pretty much going to have a wall here. We're going to have a cold front, a big, huge trough that comes through, and it's just going to be a wall. So if anyone's saying that this is going to get towards like the Carolinas or Florida, it's legit going to be impossible. Pretty sure all of our ensembles turn this. Every last one of them. There's not one ensemble that takes this into the U.S. Every single one of them turns to the north-northeast. So that's the really, really good news. Pretty much going to have a unmovable wall at that point. But here's the thing. If it is more south like the European ensembles, that wall that's way up here, that's not going to really be able to steer it, right? Your wall isn't literally the entire size of the Atlantic Basin. So if it is more south somehow, like these southern ensembles, I'm sure it would be a much closer call to the U.S. If it manages to go that far south. So by no means am I writing this off as a fish storm, although I do think it is more likely to see a fish storm than this actually impact the Lesser Antilles. There's too many ensembles out here towards the Lesser Antilles for me to say this is going to be a fish storm. Like I said, that's probably close to about 10 ensembles that have some sort of impacts for the Lesser Antilles. So definitely going to want to watch it very closely. Let's see. Hello, Darian and JD and Ryan. Glad to see you guys all in here as well. Another thing is the second area. Actually, there's multiple other areas. So there's going to be a lot to watch. We're going once we go towards the middle and the end of September. There's going to be a lot to watch here. So our first system starts here, goes out to sea. Our second system could be as early as mid next week out here south of Cape Verde. That will probably go out to sea as well. Our third system will be off the coastline of Africa, and that hopefully will also be staring out to sea. So there's going to be at least 2 to 3 areas to watch over the next month out here in the main development region. The first one, obviously the one we're watching now, that's hopefully going to go out to sea, but could be a close call to Lesser Antilles. Second one near Cape Verde, maybe late next week that goes hopefully out to sea, and then one towards the end of September that a few of our ensembles show it's really far out, so there's a lot of uncertainties, but hopefully that would also go out to sea as well. So probably 2 to 3 areas to watch over the next month or so out there. And then this is an area of pretty high uncertainty. Right in here, we've had a few ensembles that actually show the potential for a tropical storm to go into the Caribbean and to the Gulf here. Now, I can't show them because I don't think this site goes out far enough, but you can see a few of them on the European ensembles. That shows a few of them starting to spark up in the Southwest Gulf. And then even on the GFS ensembles, you saw that had at least a couple little low pressures in here and out in here. So we're going to have to keep an eye on the Gulf and the Caribbean towards the middle and the latter half of the end of September. But our main area for tropical storms and hurricanes September is going to be in here. It's going to be in here. I think we'll have 2, maybe even 3 named storms in the main development region that probably will go out to sea during the month of September. And then the Caribbean and the Gulf, that's kind of a toss-up. I could definitely see a tropical storm being possible somewhere in there eventually this month, especially towards the end of the month. But the Gulf and Caribbean, I think the main time frame for you guys is going to be the end of September into October. I think that's the main time frame for you guys out in the Caribbean and the Gulf. Now, speaking on that, thank goodness I got lucky today. The CPC just updated their tropical hazards outlook, and you can see they're like, yeah, heck yeah, we're most likely going to see a tropical storm right in here in the main development region. At least one, maybe even more than that, between the time frame of September 10th and September 23rd. So we should see at least another 1 or 2 tropical storms after this one in the main development region. And main area to watch in the main development region is obviously going to be the Lesser Antilles, but you probably already saw it here. September 10th through the 16th, they do have a chance for tropical development in a good chunk of the Gulf into the Caribbean and the southwestern Atlantic, as well as towards September 17th through the 23rd. Now, the good news is they haven't pushed this well into the states. You could see a tip of southern Texas and the Florida Peninsula inside these 2 areas here, but it's not into the U.S., so that's definitely going to be something we have to watch. I'm a little surprised they don't have it a little bit more south like this, something more like that, because that's really the main area I'm watching. They do have it going into the Bahamas, which I haven't really seen anything to signify that, but we'll see. But they do have a chance for tropical development in the Bahamas too. So, yeah, main thing in September, once again, we're going to have our tropical storm form probably sometime this weekend. hopefully goes out to sea, but it could be a pretty close call between the Lesser Antilles and just going completely out to sea. We'll have to see. And then as we go towards the end of next week, so over a week out, we'll have to watch these little lows you see in here. We'll have to watch that for the chance of another tropical storm. That is very likely to head out to sea. And then towards the end of September, we'll have to watch in the same general vicinity again, but probably this area towards the last few days of September. And then obviously towards the middle of end of September, we'll be watching down in here too. All right, let's go to the Eastern Pacific here. Now, this is a little bit difficult because, okay, there we go. Let's go to the European ensembles. And this is the European ensembles, and you can see most of them keep our currently Category 2 hurricane right in that area. Most of them keep it very close to Hawaii, but either south or north of Hawaii. And the ones that do go over Hawaii are extremely weak. So, like I said, if we do see a landfall in Hawaii, it's probably going to be a tropical depression. And then our other system out here, you could see how half of the ensembles just want it to die out, and the other half take it into Baja California. So, both of these areas, we're going to have to watch closely for land impacts. Baja California and Hawaii are the main two areas of interest. In either case, we will likely see nothing stronger than a low-end tropical storm for either one of them if we even do see landfall. Now, we do have tropical storm watches out for Baja California, but those could easily not turn into tropical storm warnings, depending on which way our tropical storm goes. So there's our tropical storm watches in the yellow. And like I said, this could easily just die out and turn a bit more out to sea and just die out right here. Or it could do what the NHC is forecasting and be a weak tropical storm as it moves into Baja California. And if that is the case, we will see the potential for flash flooding across Arizona and New Mexico sometime very, very early next week, Sunday, Monday, even Tuesday, out in Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona, if this system does manage to move inland and make landfall in Baja California, Mexico, and then die out as it goes over northern Mexico. But it still could bring rainfall impacts as it moves more inland. So that's about it for the Eastern Pacific. I mean, I don't really want to do too much of a deep dive into those systems. But there's the NHC's forecast, like I said, forecasting it to hit Baja California at the moment. And then this one, probably going to stay north of Hawaii, but still want to keep an eye on that just in case it heads closer to Hawaii. Alrighty, let's see. All right, let's move over to severe weather now, because I'm sure some of you are at least a bit interested in the chance for severe weather. I mentioned that at the beginning of the stream. So today we've got a marginal for severe weather, level 1 out of 5. Not really expecting much today. Could see 60-mile-an-hour winds, 1-inch hail. That's about it. I don't expect any tornadoes today. I wouldn't rule one out. The best chance for a tornado is definitely like dead center of this marginal, right on the border of South Dakota and western Minnesota, southwestern Minnesota. But still, that chance is very, very slim. Tomorrow, a bit better chance. Now, for some reason, they did remove the 2% tornado risk. I'm actually a little bit in disagreement with that. I do think there is a chance we see a couple tornadoes tomorrow, but it will be a very brief opportunity for tornadoes, and likely they will be if we do see any tornadoes, it will be very, very weak, brief spin-up tornadoes. The best chance for that, let's see. I'm looking at models I'll show you in a bit. The best chance for that is definitely around the 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. time frame, right in this area. Right in this area, supercells are possible to explode off of a boundary, and they will likely die off pretty fast. That's the good news. I don't expect it to last more than like 2 hours for a all hazards threat. So we'll keep an eye on, in that area for the chance of a few tornadoes. And the main hazard, though, will definitely be hail. Actually, they hatched that. They actually hatched the hail risk. I agree with that. So we could see up to 2.5 inch hail, maybe even a hailstone up to 3-inch in diameter there around the Kansas City metro, pointing to the west-southwest. Damaging winds of 70 miles per hour. And then, like I said, even though this has less than 2%, they may add the 2% back. I still do think we could see a few tornadoes for tomorrow. Thank you for tuning in, Void. I'll see you in the next one. And then as we go on into... What's today? Is today Tuesday? I think today's Tuesday. Man, I forgot. Yeah, it is Tuesday. As we go into Thursday, we have a chance for severe weather all the way from far northern Pennsylvania all the way down into Tennessee and Mississippi. Main threat is definitely very small hail up to 1 inch in diameter, and then 70-mile-an-hour winds will be possible, but I would not rule out a tornado. I would definitely not rule out a tornado. It may be something worth chasing if it kind of trends a bit more east, because to be honest with you, I don't really want to be chasing in the mountains of North Carolina and Virginia. That's not too fun. But the best chance for a brief spin-up tornado will definitely be right in here, right in this area, and then maybe even in this region in here. So pretty much on the Appalachian Mountains. We might as well just circle the whole area. So this area here does have a risk for a brief tornado, 1-inch hail, and 60-mile-an-hour wind gust. And then also wouldn't rule out a tornado back up into Pennsylvania. I'm surprised that marginal isn't up more into New York. Personally, I think that marginal should be extended a little bit more north, maybe all the way until the Ontario-New York border there. And I wouldn't be shocked if we have a chance for a brief spin-up tornado, maybe in central Pennsylvania. I'm trying to check all of the main models here because I don't want to just go off of one singular model. Yeah, maybe central Pennsylvania. I wouldn't fully rule out the chance for a brief tornado here as well. But overall, the risk is very low for a tornado. It's not something to panic about, just something to be weather aware on. So we'll keep an eye on that. And then going into Friday, Friday, not really too interested in. It looks like dry air near the surface and just not really a good amount of forcing should allow for a pretty inactive Friday. But if we do see any severe weather on Friday, the best chance for that is definitely going to be from Pennsylvania, Ohio, all the way back down into Tennessee and Kentucky. That's definitely our best chance for severe weather on Friday. But there's a chance not even a single storm fires. And then on Saturday, that pushes back into the mid-Atlantic, all the way up from Maine, all the way down the coastline. The eastern U.S. coastline has a chance for severe storms going on into Saturday. All these days are probably marginal risk caliber. I really don't expect to see anything greater than 70-mile-an-hour winds, 1-inch hail, and a spin-up tornado on each day. We could see a slight risk. The only way that happens is if we have higher confidence, if the SPC has a higher confidence in severe storms occurring on Friday, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. Which right now seems like confidence is probably fairly on the lower side of things. So that is all your main weather updates there. We can go ahead and see if flooding is an issue. Slight risk today, slight risk tomorrow, slight risk on, actually marginal risk on Thursday. Friday, big marginal. Saturday, huge marginal. So Friday, Saturday, if this system does end up making landfall in Baja California, moves up into Mexico, we could very easily see a slight risk for rainfall across Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas as the remnants of that moves into the southwest U.S. However, like I said, there's a chance this system just dies out right in here and doesn't even make landfall on Baja California. But if this scenario that the NHC is forecasting comes to fruition, then we easily could see a slight risk added for both Friday and Saturday in the southwestern U.S. All right, but yeah, I think that is the main things. There's one last thing I just want to point out. It's not necessarily anything crazy, but it's just a reminder. The fluffy stuff is going to be making a return to the States pretty soon. Now, this one is going to stay up in Ontario. Could see some flurries as far south as the border of Minnesota and what is that? Yes, kind of Western Ontario there. But I don't think we'll see any accumulation in the States from this little guy here. So, winter storms, they're going to be making a return in the U.S. probably sooner than you'd think. But right now, I don't think there's any snow on the model runs, at least in the U.S. Yeah, none. You see the GFS here. Yeah, definitely heavy rain on the 6th. Total precipitation. Very, very clearly a risk for flash flooding. And actually, that precipitation carries all the way into Louisiana and Texas. So you can see the path of it. You can see when it gets carried up by the jet stream and it moves this way. The remnants of our tropical storm currently way out there south of Baja California. Look at that. Gets carried by the jet stream and then flies up here into New York on the 10th. That is... Now, all it takes is for this hurricane to die out west of Baja California, not make landfall, and this entire model run is going to be dead wrong. So, yeah, and there's your other hurricane the GFS has, which I still think it's a bit too far to the northwest. But even if it was this far northwest, look at that. Outer bands still hitting the British Virgin Islands and northern Lesser Antilles there. Even with it that far to the northeast. And you can see our other area to keep an eye on right there too. But that's towards the end of next week. That's like a week and a half out. Maybe even 2 weeks out before we really start talking about that. So, yeah, that's the main briefing. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and put them in chat. If not, we'll just stay here for a little bit longer and then conclude. The next live stream, I don't think I'll be live tomorrow. I don't see a point in doing daily live streams. Not yet, at least. But once this becomes a hurricane, that will probably end up being something we do. Depending on what it looks like. If it's closer to Lesser Antilles, yeah, we'll do daily live streams. If it's really far north, we'll just continue with the every other day or whatnot live streams. And in terms of a video, I'll have one out eventually. We'll just see. I'll have one out sometime this year. I'm not very good at making a consistent schedule for videos. Hello, Legacy. Glad to see you in here. Hey, better late than never. Lucky said he was going to tune in. That didn't go very well. So, see you later, Rainbow Obsidian. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully see you in another stream. Dang. I'm going to sleep early. 7 o'clock? That's early, man. Not even Lucky goes to sleep that early. Leaving in 11 days. Still looks pretty good, Legacy. Your best chance for any tropical impacts will definitely be towards the end of your vacation. Let's see here. Okay. So I was I was looking at a different model run. 18Z GFSs. And did we look at the whole model run? I don't know if we did. I know we looked at the 12Z Euro, but you know what's the crazy thing here? This is the GFS. Both the GFS and the Euro, Bermuda being directly impacted by this hurricane. Kind of crazy when you get two of the main models to agree on something 270 hours out. That's pretty impressive. That is pretty impressive to see two of the models agree like that. Now, still, even with both of those agreeing, it's still a low chance of it happening, but still want to keep an eye on it. You know, still keep an eye on it. If you are in Bermuda, you're going to need to watch this over the next 2 weeks. Yes, it's literally going to take 2 weeks for this system to go from where it is now to Bermuda. about 2 weeks. The Euro has almost 2 weeks, and the GFS has just under 2 weeks. Both have it on the 14th to the 15th. That's about it, y'all. Like I said, probably no live stream tomorrow unless there's big changes. Probably no live stream tomorrow. So if you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button. Seems like pretty much every last one of y'all already have. So I appreciate that. Didn't even have to ask once in the stream. But just in case you haven't, make sure you hit that like button and share the channel and the stream with your family, friends, social media. Remember, this live stream obviously is going to be up for as long as it stays up. But yeah, the information that you've seen here in this live stream will still be good for at least the next 6 to 12 hours, and YouTube will keep pushing it out upwards of 18 to 24 hours. Now, the one thing that may change here in about 30 minutes, we're probably going to get an NHC update, and they may up this to a 4070 or a 4080. So just take note of that. The only thing I expect to change today into tomorrow is the probabilities of this will probably go up a bit. And that's about it. So I appreciate everyone for being here. I appreciate the mods for Mod Chat. I knew this live stream was going to go by fast, but oh my goodness, did it go by fast. Because that was absolutely crazy how fast that stream went. So South Carolina coastline, 9th through the 20th. So this system, let's see, 9th through the 20th, you say? Yeah, just, it's too far out to say now about anything, but there's probably going to be a risk of rip currents along the coastal areas in that time frame. It depends exactly where this system's located at that point, but it should be somewhere near Bermuda. Hopefully not over Bermuda, but probably pretty close to Bermuda at that time frame. And if that's the case, it could cause some rip currents along the coastline of the eastern U.S., so I'd keep an eye on that. But any direct impacts, like a landfalling hurricane in the U.S., seems highly unlikely over the next week or two, especially out of this system. I don't think this system will make landfall in the U.S. Most likely, it's going to track very close to the Lesser Antilles and then very close to Bermuda. Something kind of like that. Here, I'll very quickly just show this. Let's see. Very quickly, here you go. Yeah, so you can see these are our ensembles, and most take it in this area here. So we'll have to keep an eye on that for rip current risk along the eastern U.S., but that's it. I don't think we'd have any other risk. I don't think it's going to be as close of a call as Aaron was, but you never know. 2 weeks, that's a lot of time for things to change. So wouldn't be shocked if things change a lot. Just make sure you stay weather aware, keep an eye on it. It doesn't hurt to just watch the tropics, even if it is 2,000 miles away. It doesn't hurt to just keep an eye on it, just in case, because you never know which way things could end up trending. I mean, Aaron was one of Aaron's earliest forecast cones for when it started that turn was east of Bermuda, and then it shifted all the way to like here. So I mean, that hurricane shifted about 500 miles in 2 weeks in terms of model trends. So further out you go, the more uncertainty there is. But yeah, we're gonna have to skip a little bit of the outro music because I yapped on a little bit too long. But I appreciate all you guys for tuning in. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I will see you guys definitely on Thursday, maybe tomorrow. Wouldn't rule it out. I don't expect to do a live stream tomorrow, but maybe. But definitely for sure on Thursday will be our next live stream. And I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday. Hopefully you guys had a great Labor Day and Labor Day weekend. Hopefully you enjoyed a pretty nice weather. It was pretty nice across much of the U.S. during Labor Day weekend. So yeah, that's going to be it. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Only about a minute worth of outro music this time because I stayed a little bit long. But anyways, stay safe. Watch the weather. Watch the tropics. Thank you, Mods for Mod Chat. I'll catch you guys on Thursday. Stay safe and watch the severe weather. Goodbye. Man, I forgot it was that fast. I'll see you guys at Thursday's live stream. Have a great rest of your night. Stay safe, watch severe weather. And again, thank you, Mods from On Chat, and everyone for being here. Goodbye.